Thailand has a plastic problem.
Every year we also has post consumption of plastic product around 2 million tons and it become plastic waste.
And the pandemic has made it worse.
รวมเราทำจิตอาสาดูเริ่มทำเล็กๆคือหาเรื่องเล็กๆมาลง
Piling onto this problem is pollution from imported plastic.
There have been huge impact.
ตรงนี้ปลูกอะไรไม่ได้เลยนะปลูกยังไงก็ไม่ขึ้น
How will Thailand solve its trash troubles and stop being the garbage bin of the world? It's another day of hard work for Manas Samponoi. Here, in the Bang Kolam district of Bangkok, Thailand, Manas is one of the many garbage collectors working to keep the capital clean.
สัปดาห์หนึ่งจันทร์ถึงเสาร์ครับวันอาทิตย์เป็นวันหยุดนักขัตฤกษ์ถ้าทำอาทิตย์จะได้วันหยุดได้เบิกเงินพิเศษครับ
Serving an area with about 1,000 residents, Manas noticed a trend during the pandemic, an uptick in household waste.
เพิ่มขึ้นก็จากเคยอยู่ประมาณ4 ตันถึง 5 ตันก็อยู่ประมาณ 6 ตันเพราะว่าเขากักตัวอยู่บ้านกันเยอะครับ
Before the pandemic, the Bangkok, we generate about 10,000 tons of garbage per day. But during the pandemic, the number reduced, like maybe 8,500 or 9,000 tons. So I think the reason might be the big business, they stop, right? So you go more in the household garbage. But then if you look at the content, we found that you have more plastic, more container. Usually it's like a 17% plastic. But during the pandemic, it increased to 21%. So even though the total garbage come down, right, the number of plastic increased a little bit.
Nationally, the coronavirus outbreak led to a high amount of plastic waste, up to 40% more compared to the period before the pandemic. This was partly caused by a surge in demand for food deliveries.
This is plastic packaging. It's everywhere, especially in Thailand. We use for food in food store, in convenience store, in the shopping mall.
Trying to educate people on the issue of plastic use and pollution is Greenpeace, a non-governmental organization that has been working on environmental issues since the 70s.
This kind of plastic can be recycled, but because of we don't have a good system to segregate plastic, recycle plastic waste, and we don't have recycling facilities that facilitate to increase the rate of recycling.
The pandemic also generated another type of waste, one which is harder to handle.
So this is a mask where we have been using heavily during the pandemic, right? And also this is actually it's a single-use mask, so it can be used only one time and then we need to throw away. The antigen test kit is polystyrene or PS, which also used one time, but several millions of ATK being used during the pandemic, and the post-pandemic also continue. Again, if it go into the environment, it will last long, I think more than 500, 600 years.
While increased pandemic plastic waste is not unique to Thailand, with many countries seeing similar upticks, Here, the problem is more complicated. Other countries are also sending their trash to Thailand, adding to the 2 million tons of domestic plastic waste generated each year.
Majority is coming from Japan, coming from the country in European Union or from the North America, United States or Canada. In average, it's like 500,000 tons of plastic waste that's being imported into Thailand.
How did Thailand become the world's plastic dumping ground? The roots of this can be traced to China's 2017 ban on the import of most plastic waste. Prior to that, the Middle Kingdom was the world's main destination for such scraps. The ban led to countries like Japan, the US, and France exporting their waste elsewhere. Southeast Asia became the new dumping ground.
Plastic waste import is part of waste trade in general. So waste, in the sense, it is one of the global commodities that being traded around the world. And some of the recycled plastic also export to Asia, to Thailand and other countries in Southeast Asia as a material for recycling.
Since the Chinese ban, imported plastic waste in Thailand soared, from about 70 tons in 2018 to over 550,000 tons in 2020. And this number could be far higher due to improper declaration. The imported plastics are meant as raw materials for recycling plants. Even though Thailand itself generates enough to feed the recycling industry.
Well, I think go back, way back, is we need a good raw material, and also the plastic wastes that we have in Thailand because of the nature of people. You know, just throw things away. You've finished using bottles, you've finished using plastic bags, etc., etc. You just throw it away. Now, those raw materials ended up in the dumpster, and these companies tried to recycle it. It costing them too much to clean them and process them. So that's why they started importing the plastic scraps from abroad instead of using the domestic ones, available.
Every year we also has consumption of plastic product around 2 million tons, and it become plastic waste, but we still relying on 500,000 tons to import plastic. So it's about waste management system that we have in the country that not really addressing how we can actually utilize recycling system for plastic waste.
But the import of plastic waste has proven to be problematic. False declarations mean not all of it makes it to the recycling plant.
They would say they import plastic scraps, which would be like the first few meters when you open up the container door. However, when you go deeper, the fourth meter, the fifth meter, it becomes plastic waste or just waste altogether. So we've had quite a few incidents of those, and what happened is that with the illegal importation, we just send it back to their origin.
Sometimes government decided to actually ship it back, but it's difficult to ship it back. One is that we cannot trace it back. In many cases, we see when the plastic coming to Thailand and sitting at the port, and then no one actually claim to be the owner of those plastic waste. It become the burden for local government and other relevant agency to actually deal with it.
To curb this, the Thai government in 2018 announced plans to ban waste imports to be enforced by 2021. But these prohibitions have yet to materialize.
Everything was going on, accordingly, but until the COVID-19 strikes. That's when things got slowed down, and also by having to deal with the private sectors, the industries, the operators, factory owners, business owners, etc., etc. It's actually more challenging than in some other field, because in Thailand, we have like the free zone for the customs and the normal zones. So in each zone, we'll have different regulations and rules and, and laws.
Thailand now plans to limit plastic waste import in phases, starting from 2023. By 2025, there will be a complete ban. Enforcing the legislation will be important because the country is running out of ways to deal with waste.
And it's very unfortunate that these landfills are filling up very, very quickly.
Every day at Sividon Hospital, the staff sort through waste at the ward.
แยกขยะมูลฝอยในโรงพยาบาลนะคะเราก็จะให้น้องเขาแยกเป็นอันนี้ทิ้งเศษอาหารนะคะเราก็จะแยกถังบรรจุโดยเฉพาะนะคะแล้วก็ขยะทั่วไปนี่ก็จะมีตั้งแต่ถุงพลาสติกนะคะแล้วก็พวกเศษอาหารแล้วก็จะทิ้งตรงนี้นะคะแล้วก็ขยะรีไซเคิลนะคะเช่นพวกขวดพลาสติกกระดาษนะคะที่ใส่ตรงนี้ก็ได้ค่ะ
It's all part of the 10,000 tons of waste generated in Bangkok daily. That is enough trash to fill 4 Olympic-sized pools. After consolidation, the waste eventually ends up here. The Nong Kem landfill, run by the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, or BMA.
การฝังกลบเนี่ยเรามีเฉพาะขยะทั่วไปเศษอาหารหรือขยะอินทรีย์เองส่วนเรื่องการเอาขยะนะครับทั่วไปกับขยะอินทรีย์ไปฝังกลบนะครับกรุงเทพมหานครเนี่ยนะครับมีแผ่นทั้งหมดอยู่3แห่งนะครับมีที่สายไหมมีที่อ่อนนุชนะครับแล้วที่มีที่หนองแขมที่หนองแขมกับอ่อนนุชนะครับสามารถที่จะเอาขยะเนี่ยไปฝังกลบได้เนี่ยวันหนึ่งเนี่ยประมาณ 3,500 ตันต่อวันส่วนที่สายไหมเนี่ยนะครับก็ประมาณเฉลี่ย 2,000 ตันต่อวันนะครับ
The Nong Kem landfill covers an area of about 1,000 acres and has been in operation since 1988. For waste to be buried, the site is first surveyed, and depending on the type of soil, a hole of about 5 to 8 meters deep is dug. Alternating layers of plastic sheets and soil are then used to bury the garbage with pipes to drain away any liquids. This helps to prevent odors and insect growth. But the landfill is facing another problem besides the smells: space. The landfill receives about 3,500 tons of waste a day, and at this rate, it only has 20 years left till it is full.
At the moment, we have about over 2,000 landfills in Thailand, and it's very unfortunate that these landfills are filling up very, very quickly. We need to reduce the amount of rubbish that goes in. Good example of how we deal with such issue is to reduce the amount of plastic waste in the country.
เพราะฉะนั้นในอนาคตเนี่ยการฝังกลบเนี่ยแนวโน้มของเราเนี่ยอาจจะลดน้อยลงกรุงเทพมหานครเนี่ยนะครับได้พยายามปรับเปลี่ยนวิธีการกำจัดขยะนะครับยกตัวอย่างเช่นที่หนองแขมเนี่ยในปัจจุบันเนี่ยนะครับเราก็มีเตาเผาขยะวันหนึ่งได้ประมาณ300 ตันต่อวัน
Incinerators are the destination for another type of waste that is generated by the Sividon Hospital: contaminated or infectious waste.
ในส่วนของแมสกับ PPE เนี่ยเราจะทิ้งทั้งหมดนะคะไม่ได้ถูกนำมารีไซเคิลเนื่องจากว่าเหล่านี้จะเป็นขยะติดเชื้อเราจะไม่ได้รีไซไลน์ค่ะของโรงพยาบาลจะมีแนวทางคือให้คัดแยกขยะตั้งแต่จุดแหล่งกำเนิดนะคะแล้วก็ในส่วนของบุคลากรที่ปฏิบัติหน้าที่เกี่ยวกับการเก็บรวบรวมการเคลื่อนย้ายแล้วก็การกำจัดเนี่ยจะถูก
After the bags of contaminated waste have been consolidated, it is then sterilized and loaded into a truck to be sent here. The Onnut Infectious Waste Incinerator Plant, located in Polluted district. Handling the operations of this incinerator is plant manager Chaiwat Tupsara.
ห้องควบคุมนะครับห้องควบคุมของการกำจัดของเตาเผานะครับซึ่งกระบวนการกำจัดของเตาเผานะครับเมื่อขยะเราจะป้องขยะตรงด้านบนนะครับอันนี้ก็จะเป็นตัวโรลเลอร์ฟีดจะเป็นแบบลูกกิ้งนะครับเพื่อป้อนขยะแบบต่อเนื่องนะครับ
The garbage goes through a series of high temperature chambers and eventually is burned down to ash.
ป้อนสารโซเดียมไฮดรอกไซด์นะเพื่อใช้ในการจับกรดที่เกิดจากการเผาไหม้นะครับแล้วหลังจากนั้นเราก็จะมีตัวป้อนผ ผงกำมันนะครับผงคาร์บอนกำมันนะครับเพื่อดักจับไดออกซิดก่อนเข้าห้องแบ็กฟิลเตอร์นะครับซึ่งเป็นถุงกรองซึ่งอย่างที่ผมบอกที่เราจะมีการตรวจวัดที่ปล่องปีหนึ่ง3 ครั้งครับซึ่งจะต้องผ่านเกณฑ์มาตรฐานผ่านไดออกซินครับผม
During the pandemic, Thailand saw an increase in infectious waste. According to the Thai Health Department, in 2021, some 100 tons of contaminated waste were collected across Bangkok each day, up from 60 tons before the pandemic. And this is what one day's work looks like. Because contaminated waste must be burned rather than buried, the spike has taxed the capacity of incinerators like this one in Onnat.
ครับก็กำลังการผลิตของเราอยู่ที่วันละ100 ตันนะครับในส่วนที่เกินเนี่ยเราก็จะแยกความสำคัญเรียงลำดับคือว่าถ้ามาจากโรงพยาบาลหรือผู้มีการตรวจว่าเป็นโควิดหรือเสี่ยงติดเชื้อเนี่ยเราจะกำจัดพวกนี้ก่อนนะครับส่วนข้าวของเครื่องใช้พวกเตียงสนามเสื้อผ้าที่นอนหมอนมุ้งหรือพวกจุดพักคอยที่ว่าแค่เป็นความเสี่ยงแต่ว่าไม่ได้มีเชื้อโควิดเนี่ยเราก็จะมีที่เก็บสำรองไว้แล้วก็ทำการฆ่าเชื้อเพื่อรอกำจัดในคราวต่อไปครับผม
With landfills and incinerators stretched, imported waste adds to the problem. A solution is to send suitable products to recycling facilities, thus reducing the load that has to be burned or buried. One such facility is Veolia Circular Polymer, located in the Free Trade Zone in Samut Prakan, just outside Bangkok.
So at Veolia Circular Polymer, we are receiving polyethylene film, so PE film in short. So these material, these waste, are coming from two main sources. First is commercial waste. So that means plastic film coming from warehouse, logistics station. The second source is what we call household film. So it can be every kind of plastic bags, shopping bags, or whatever. We are able to accept about 70 tons per day to be recycled.
In order to turn plastic waste into new products, the plastic is first shredded and washed.
So the purpose of the shredding is to reduce the size of the plastic in order to facilitate the washing operation by removing the dust, soil, and other kind of sinking contaminants. After shredding, we can go straight to the washing line.
Once the plastic is cleaned and dried, it is then melted down and made into new plastic products. The recycling process, however, produces contaminated water and other forms of industrial waste, all of which have to be properly managed.
After the washing process of the plastic, dirty water will be collected and treated internally at Veolia Circular Polymer in order to remove all the contaminants that we add during the washing process to reuse the water, making a closed loop.
But not all plants dispose of recycling waste adequately. We discovered one such factory here in Rayong province. Living next to this factory is 66-year-old Tiep Samanmit. He's a rubber farmer and has been farming since he was 13. Although these days, there's not much to farm.
ตอนนี้ก็ก่อนหนึ่งก็เป็นสวนยางหลังจากนั้นเนี่ยหลังจากสารเคมีเข้ามาเมื่อปี60 61เนี่ยเป็นสภาพเนี้ยต้นยางตายเนี่ยเหลือแต่เห็นตอมันผุไปหมดแล้วเพราะมัน 2-3 ปีแล้วที่เกิดและนี่เหลืองๆนี่คือมันเป็นน้ำสารเคมีที่ซึมมาจากใต้ดินเนี่ยขึ้นมาเห็นเลยเนี่ยตรงนี้ปลูกอะไรไม่ได้เลยนะปลูกยังไงก็ไม่ขึ้นเนี่ยที่ว่างๆเนี่ยแม้ต้นไม้ธรรมดามันต้องขึ้นนี่มันยังไม่ขึ้นเลยขึ้นไม่ได้
The factory belongs to a company called Win Process. In 2011, the company had applied for a factory permit to conduct non-hazardous waste management. However, after opposition from villagers living in the area, the permit was not granted. However, in 2013, authorities were called to investigate illegal dumping by the company, and it was found that the company was using the site to dump several kinds of waste, including plastic scraps, metal scraps, as well as used oil and lube.
คือไอ้สระน้ำเนี่ยเมื่อก่อนหน้านั้นจะเป็นน้ำใสนะเราใช้น้ำในเนี้ยในไร่ของเราเนี่ยแล้วมาปี55โรงงานเขาเริ่ม54-55เขาเริ่มมาสร้างไงแล้วกับเมื่อปี56น้ำในสระเริ่มเป็นสีละเริ่มมีกลิ่นเหม็นมากด้วยแล้วก็กลายเป็นสีดำในที่สุด
This kind of wastewater contains typically like hazardous substances, so it's very dangerous for environment and human health. It needs to be managed properly.
Part of the problem is also caused by the inadequate sorting of refuse. General waste and unrecyclable plastics end up at recycling plants where errant facilities like this illegally dump instead of doing proper disposal.
The Chinese government, they stop importing plastic and some certain types of waste into China for recycling. And then in the same year, 2018, since January onward, the plastic waste import into Thailand increased rapidly. And since it is a huge volume of import, and the officer also found some mixed and dirty plastic being imported in that year.
When the recycling plant accept or receive the waste from waste generators like factories or somewhere else, they tend to dump all of them inside and outside the factory areas. So it's kind of like mixing. It's not only wastewater, it's also solid waste.
Between 2014 and 2016, the company had again tried to get a permit, but was once again opposed by locals. Yet in 2017, the Department of Industrial Works granted 3 factory permits to Wind Process, making their action legal.
I think in Thailand, we have the big problem about the law enforcement. We have several problems about the implementation and law enforcement of the Department of Industrial Work and the provincial industrial office to inspect, to control and keep auditing about the environmental practice.
I found that the government agency tend to, they found a legal violation so many times, and they tend to suspend the license again and again. And once the factory fix the problems, and then they can reopen it, and then they violate the laws again, and then reopen it after they fix it again and again, like more than 20 times. You have to think about the permission process, monitoring process, and also how to enforce the law.
Part of the problem is that in Thailand, there is no central agency that regulates errant recycling plants.
At the moment, ministries that deals with scraps factories or even the local rubbish collection, they falls under a few ministries. And some ministry can be, how shall I say, more passive than the others. Not pointing fingers or blaming to anyone, because different ministries will have more, how shall I say, restrictions and obstacles. They would view it differently from what we view from here.
The villagers have now taken their case to court, suing Wind Process for $1.3 million. The case, however, has yet to be resolved. In the meantime, villagers like Mr. Samamit are left to fend for themselves in this wasteland.
ก็อยากจะทดลองปลูกนะพืชว่าอะไรมันจะทนต่อสารนี้ได้ก็ปลูกไว้หลายอย่างมีกล้วยมีมามีมะม่วงแล้วก็มีผักบางอย่างก็ทดลองปลูกดูแต่คิดว่าพืชตัวไหนที่ว่ามันทนได้ก็จะลองปลูกดู
While in other parts of Thailand, plastic waste is clogging up the country's arteries. This is the Chao Phraya River. It is a major river in Thailand that flows through Bangkok, and into the Gulf of Thailand. The river and its tributaries serve as important transport waterways for the city. Many have made their home along its banks and canals since ancient times, like Sumnyang Bonmue. He and his family have lived along the Lat Prao River, one of Chao Praya's tributaries, for more than 3 generations.
เกิดมาก็ใช้น้ำคลองมาโดยตลอดเลยทุกอย่างใช้นี่หมดคือหุงข้าวแม้แต่น้ำดื่มแล้วก็แฝงกันส้มเอาใช้แฝงกันส้มเสร็จก็ใช้กันมาก็ใช้มาพอมาตกถึงรุ่นผมเนี่ยอันนี้บ้านที่อยู่อาศัยมาโดยกำเนิดเลยก็บ้านหลังนี้ก็สร้างมาก็เนี่ยก็ประมาณ50 ปีแล้ว50 กว่าปีก็สร้างมาก็อยู่แต่จริงๆสมัยก่อนก็อยู่บ้านพ่อบ้านแม่ตอนนี้ก็มาอยู่นี่
But over time, the waters which Sumnyang and his family relied on began to change.
ก่อนเรายังงมหอยขมยังช้อนกุ้งมากินได้ช้อนกุ้งตัวเล็กๆปลูกผักหญ้าได้ตอนนี้มันก็หมดเลยหมดไปเนี่ยอย่างต้นไม้ชายคลองเนี่ยปลูกเนี่ยรดน้ำไม่ได้แล้วรดน้ำมันก็ตายมันออกซิเจนมันไม่ได้น้ำมันเสียเยอะเช้าเราตื่นมาเราได้อากาศที่ไม่ดีแล้วอากาศแต่ก่อนออกซิเจนเราก็ไม่มีเราก็จะแย่สุขภาพเราแย่ไปตอนนี้คนในชุมชนที่แย่ก็เพราะอากาศตรงนี้เราสูดอากาศตรงนี้ประจำ
Even as Thailand wants to limit the import of foreign waste, that is only part of the problem. It still has to deal with the mountains of garbage that it generates domestically. It's estimated that the Chao Phraya River carries about 4,000 tons of plastic to the Gulf of Thailand each year. The buildup of waste has left the waters polluted and unusable. Sumnyang now works with the TerraCycle Foundation, an organization that aims to reduce the flow of plastic waste from rivers and canals before it can reach the ocean.
ขยะพวกนี้ส่วนมากก็มาจากชาวบ้านซึ่งชาวบ้านเนี่ยซึ่งมาเราก็ไม่ได้โทษชาวบ้านที่ว่าเพราะว่าภาครัฐเนี่ยมันไม่มีสิ่งอำนวยความสะดวกให้เขาไม่มีที่ทิ้งเขาจำเป็นจะต้องทิ้งและบ้านซึ่งอยู่ท้ายบ้านอยู่ครัวอยู่ริมคลองเนี่ยยังไงก็ทิ้ง
So many houses, they still rely on the canal to be the route for garbage collection. But sometimes the city didn't provide enough collecting. So that's one thing. So I think we have to improve. The other thing would be sometimes you have house maybe not legally built along the canal, right? So when you not legally build, the system of like sewage or even the garbage collecting is not properly done.
According to the government, about 5 to 10 tons of garbage is pulled from the canals and riverways in Bangkok every single day. Besides polluting the waters, this waste buildup creates other problems.
The waste also has an impact on flood management. So the more waste that's in the canals, it gets bound up on tree roots and the pillars from the buildings, and then that traps more debris, and the mud and the sediment builds up, and that reduces how much water that the canals can handle. So that increases flooding.
So many of the flooding occur because the garbage got stuck into the pumping station. But then sometimes the garbage is not small, that you can see that like sofa or even television or refrigerator.
Every day, Sumnyang and his team clean up trash that has been dumped into the waters of Lat Prao. And they notice a spike at the height of the pandemic.
ช่วงโควิดเนี่ยเราจะเหนื่อยมากเพราะขยะจะเยอะการที่ชาวบ้านออกไปไหนไม่ได้ก็จะเป็นต้องกินอยู่กับบ้านการที่ขยะเยอะในคนในชุมชนก็สั่งอาหารกล่องมาหรือว่าหน่วยงานก็สั่งพวกน้ำดื่มอาหารกล่องของอะไรที่ใส่ภาชนะพวกที่ว่ามันย่อยสลายไม่ได้แทบทั้งนั้นเลยเพิ่มให้เราขึ้นมาอีกเยอะเลยจากว่าเราเก็บวันละตันเนี่ยเพิ่มขึ้นมาวันละ 400-500 โล
As a result of riverborne trash being washed out to the seas, Thailand was at one point the 6th largest contributor of plastic waste to the ocean.
Because of the merchandises being ordered through applications, deliveries and everything, myself included. You can't go to the supermarket, you can't go to department stores, so we order things online and it will be delivered in a box, you have plastic wraps, etc., etc.
Instead of dumping trash into the environment, the government has been encouraging residents to sort their waste properly to recycle, which is what TerraCycle does with the plastic it collects.
He's very funny.
After they fish the plastics out of the water, the waste is then moved to this facility next to the canal.
ก็เราได้ขยะจากตรงนี้มาจากบนเรือมาปุ๊บเราก็จะมาเดี๋ยวเรามาชั่ง2470แล้วก็เราจะเขี่ยขยะออกให้มันกว้างแผ่ให้มันกว้างออกเพื่อที่เราจะตากแดดไว้1 วันอันนี้คือของเมื่อวานที่เราหามาพอมันตากไว้1 วันแล้วก็จะมาหาวันนี้ขยะที่แยกได้ก็จะเป็นประมาณนี้ขยะรีไซเคิลก็จะมีพลาสติกถุงพวกของเล่นที่เป็นของเล่นบางทีมีตังค์ด้วยของเล่นรองเท้าอันนี้พวกนี้คือขยะรีไซเคิลนะครับแล้วก็ของเนี่ยขยะรีไซเคิลอันนี้คือขยะอินทรีย์ขยะอินทรีย์จะเป็นพวกไม้พวกนี้เป็นขยะอินทรีย์ขยะอินทรีย์เรามันทำอะไรไม่ได้มันก็จะฝังกบอะไรอย่างเงี้ยครับแล้วก็พวกนี้จะเป็นขยะทิ้งที่เราไม่เอาของเสียเราใส่ถังเหลืองนี้ครับผม
So the reason we capture it here instead of out in the ocean is we wanted to collect the waste closer to where the waste originates for a few reasons. One is ocean waste, once the plastic is carried all the way down to the ocean, it's less recyclable. So a lot of it has been lost, it's broken to small pieces, so it's no longer recyclable. The other issues, in order to help change people's views and change their behavior, we wanted to operate closer to where the waste is being generated.
Once the plastic is dried and sorted, it is then compressed and shipped off to a recycling facility where it is turned into new plastic and subsequently made into products like these bracelets and coasters. The Thai government has set up an ambitious target of 100% plastic recycling rates by 2027. But at the moment, Thailand is a long way off this mark. More than 80% of recyclable plastic is either improperly recycled or dumped, not just in the rivers, but also on land, and not always legally. We discovered one such illegal dump site in the Lat Krabang district to the east of Bangkok. This place used to be a pond, but after it was no longer in use, a construction company had offered the landowner to fill in for free. The place was then filled with trash and construction scrap.
Unfortunately, I do not have such authority to shut them down or arrest them. What I have to do, according to the law in Thailand, is I have to file a complaint with the police, and then the police would proceed, with the legal matters accordingly. If it's an individual, that was what will happen. If it's a company, then it will have to be either with the Minister of Commerce to deal with the license of the company, or Minister of Industry with the license to operate the factory.
This dump is just one of the many that are across Thailand. The problem has become so pervasive that the Bangkok administration has enlisted ordinary citizens to help identify such sites.
So we use a platform that people can inform where the problem is. We use CCTV to see who caused the problem and use regulation. But I think that might solve only part of the problem. And I think we used to have a successful campaign. We called it Magic Eyes. So they try to promote that, okay, there are magic eyes all around, and don't litter, don't throw garbage, because you are part of the community. And then it's awareness that is important, right? So I think we have to empower the people and bring them together as a community and let them solve the problem and be proud of the location or the community that they live in.
If the plastic waste can be sorted properly and collected, then Thailand no longer needs to import plastic for recycling. But there could be a growing source of plastic waste. Thailand is open for business. As the pandemic wanes, tourists are returning to the land of smiles, and the capital Bangkok looks to reclaim its title as the world's most visited city. Between January and October this year, Thailand welcomed 7 million tourists with a full year target of around 10 million. And while these travelers are certainly welcome, the trash they generate, less so.
If you allow more people to come to Thailand and you don't have any policy to prevent tons of wastes, it will increase more problems for sure.
I think we have to make it easy for the tourists to throw their garbage. We have to provide proper bin. So I think the tourists, many of them used to separate garbage already. So if we provide proper facilities for them to put the garbage in, or to separate the garbage, maybe it will help the long-term problem.
To prevent piling heaps of plastic waste, the government banned single-use plastics in national parks earlier this year. Violators face fines of up to 100,000 baht or $3,000.
So at the moment, with the increasing number of tourists that visiting our countries, all 155 national parks, we ban plastic bags, we banned water bottles, the PET bottles, not, some people ask how do we drink? You can also bring your bottles, your own bottles, but those disposable bottles or PET bottles, we try to ban them from our national parks.
While plastic waste is being kept out of these tourist attractions, they are actually in demand in some other places. Here, at the Changdeng Temple just south of Bangkok, the monks have an unusual philosophy. Instead of asking their followers for alms, believers are encouraged to donate used plastic products.
จากมุมมองศาสนาเนี่ยทั้งพระวินัยพระสูตรพระพิธรรมเนี่ยพุทธองค์ได้ตัดไว้หมดเลยเกี่ยวกับเรื่องสิ่งแวดล้อมและเวลาจะปฏิบัติธรรมพุทธองค์ก็จะแนะให้ไปปฏิบัติพื้นที่ที่มีต้นไม้เยอะๆทำไมล่ะจิตมันสงบได้เร็วเพราะนั้นการดูแลสิ่งแวดล้อมด้วยการเก็บขยะก็ดีด้วยการปลูกต้นไม้ก็ดีในพระไตรปิฎกถือว่าถ้าสิ่งแวดล้อมดีเป็นเสนาสนะสปายะจุดดรอปของจุดที่เอาของมาลงก็จะมาลงตรงนั้นคนที่เอามาบริจาคก็จะบริจาคตรงนั้นพอบริจาคตรงนั้นเสร็จแล้วก็จะส่งมาถ้าเป็นกระดาษก็มาโซนนี้เป็นขวดก็ไปโซนนี้แล้วก็เครื่องคัดแยกก็คือทั้งทุกอย่างจริงไม่ใช่ขวดอย่างเดียวทั้งกล่องนมทั้งกระดาษทั้งขวดแก้วทั้งทุกอย่างเนี่ยพอมาแยกโซนเสร็จแล้วเนี่ยก็ถ้าขวดก็จะไปอัดก้อนอย่างเช่นอันนี้กล่องนมนี้ก็จะไปทำเป็นหลังคากล่องนม
Once the plastic is collected, it is then compressed into bales. They are then sent off to a factory to be turned into these fibers.
พอเก็บมาที่เห็นเป็นเส้นใยขาวๆนี่ก็มาจากขวดน้ำที่ขาวๆได้เสร็จแล้วก็ไปบดเป็นชิ้นเล็กบดเสร็จแล้วก็ไปทำเป็นเส้นใยโพลิเมอร์พอทำเป็นเส้นใยโพลิเมอร์เอาเส้นใยโพลิเมอร์กับเส้นใยฝ้ายผสมกันเป็นได้จากได้ก็มาทอเป็นผ้าผืนพอได้ผ้าผืนอย่างนี้แล้วก็ไปย้อมเสร็จแล้วก็ส่งกลับมาที่วัดมาตัดเป็นชุดจีวร
What this temple has accomplished is an example of the circular economy. It is a model of production and consumption which involves reusing and recycling existing materials and products as long as possible. The movement has gained steam in Thailand, with big retail businesses like Icon Siam promoting upcycled and eco-friendly gifts.
บางสกุลจีวรในพระไตรปิฎกเนี่ยปังสุแปลว่าฝุ่นแปลว่าขยะกูลแปลว่าเปื้อนผ้าที่เปื้อนฝุ่นเปื้อนขยะผ้าที่ตกอยู่ตามกองขยะหรือผ้าห่อศพเนี่ยเอามาทำเป็นจีวรผ้านั้นเรียกว่าผ้าบางสกุลจีวรเพราะนั้นก็เลยเอาขวดน้ำคิดถ้าเอาขวดน้ำไปทำเป็นผ้าบางสกุลจีวรได้และที่สำคัญมูลค่าทางด้านจิตใจคืออยากจะถวายผ้าไตรจีวรเนี่ยสักผืนหนึ่งไม่รู้จะถวายยังไงไปหาซื้อที่ไหนจะทำยังไงพอเห็นโครงการเอาขวดน้ำมาทำผ้าไตรจีวรอยากจะทำบุญทำกุศลเพราะนั้นตรงนี้ก็เลยมีทุกคนที่ส่งขวดมา
As the people of Thailand find innovative ways to deal with their plastic problem, the government is resorting to regulations. On the domestic front, it has banned single-use plastic bags at major retailers like supermarkets. At the macro level, authorities want to ban the import of plastics by 2025. However, activists are not convinced.
It's not guaranteed. In the next 3 years, Thailand will be able to actually ban the plastic waste import because of different kind of plastic under the custom department. Can be a loophole. So there's some loophole under the custom department regulation where the plastic import operator can utilize. Another aspect is that this also going against the policy, economic policy of the government itself. For example, the current government try to open up so-called free trade zone in nearby Bangkok, where the manufacturer in the free trade zone area are able to do anything, and then trespassing any regulation or strict protocol to prevent plastic import to Thailand.
We have to keep monitoring, and what we still need to pressuring onward to the government or responsible agencies that for this part we need more transparency for the law enforcement and policy implementation.
But ultimately, this could just be passing the plastic buck. According to an OECD report, the amount of plastic waste produced globally is on track to almost triple by 2060, with less than a fifth recycled. If Thailand succeeds in stopping the import of plastics, it is likely that the waste, especially those from rich nations, will simply be sent to other countries. A phenomenon that has been called waste colonialism.
We have actually United Nations Environmental Program setting up so-called Global Plastic Treaty, where bring in different countries around the world into the same negotiation table to see how we actually address plastic pollution at the global level, because of different capacity in different countries around the world, still around flowing of plastic waste import from developed country to developing country. So the global plastic treaty will be one of the platforms to address plastic waste import and export.
We demand the global agencies like United Nations and in industrialized country in the OECD group that they need to control strictly, not allowing exporting types of waste, plastic, electronic, and some other types of toxic waste into developing countries. This is the international level that we need to really focus on.
The better solution then, as some experts suggest, is to reduce the use and production of plastics altogether.
I think the problem is that there is no clear policy to force the producers to reduce the amount of plastic in their products, or they change the materials, not use plastic anymore. Some companies try to promote that they change the materials of their products, they reduce the amount of plastic in their products. And I heard a lot of research that try to change the materials for the food containers. But I don't see any promotion or support from the government. So I think that's the thing that the government needs to do, more than just force the consumer to stop using plastic.
Back at the Lat River, the team at TerraCycle continue their cleanup work on the waterways. Their trash-filled boat is a reminder that there is still some way to go on Thailand's zero plastic waste roadmap.
We'd love to see some zero waste communities, so this requires companies changing the way they deliver their products, governments changing the way they build policies around, product manufacture, waste management, and individuals looking at the way that they consume and the way they manage their waste. Could we make different choices, still, achieve what we need to achieve, get the things, the food, the items that we need for our daily lives? And so we need to do a lot more, and everybody else needs to get more involved.